Welcome back to the Palladium, everybody. I'm Al Rochelle with Adam Smith as our conversations with the candidates continues. Adam?
Let's go to the Pier. 1 minute question. Looking back, how for Bill Foster, what would you have done differently in handling the lens, the Pier? For the other two, what would you have done differently? Kathleen? Start.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, actually, I started almost a year ago, and I suggested to the mayor and to city council that before we launch off in spending all this money for the lens design, where we've got over 20,000 people who have signed a petition, why don't we put it on the November ballot? Let's ask folks what they want. Do you want to renovate that inverted pyramid, which you all know is structurally sound, as is the base? Or do you want the looping sidewalk, the lens? Or do you want a different pier? Or do you want no pier at all? Because I thought that was a prudent decision to make at that point in time, rather than going off and spending $3.8 million and potentially, if folks vote yes to stop the lens on August 27th, the lens will be stopped. And so I think it's really important that we think and we really consider what's going on. There were so many folks who were so upset by the way that Bill Foster and his administration handled that pier. I think it's our beautiful waterfront, and we all ought to have a say on it. I suggested that over a year ago.
Bill, Kathleen says we all know the inverted pyramid and the base is
Let me answer the
sound.
question, and don't change the question. And I think people are upset that Mrs. Ford didn't properly handle the petition drive and the question that was submitted a year ago. But I will give her credit where credit is due. She tried, and that's one of the things that we have agreed upon. She didn't take a poll and then form an opinion. She had an opinion, and she actually articulated that to the city council, as did I in August of a year ago, to get something on the November ballot. So I thought it was critical to recognize 20,000 signatories on a petition. I wish he had done it properly, but even a judge couldn't figure out how to make that right. If I were king for a day, I would have given myself the charter ability to put that on the ballot. But under this charter, the mayor does not have that ability. Going forward, I think that I'm honored that the subsequent group stopped the lens, did it right. They hired a professional. They got the signatures, and thank goodness it's on the August 27th ballot where it needed to be the whole time.
Rick, how would Mayor Kriseman handle this Pier issue?
Well, you know, I think this issue kind of really defines all three of us very well, better than any other, in that Mrs. Ford has been very consistent on this issue, but I believe she's been consistently wrong in talking about taking taxpayer dollars and putting them into a structure that's just not going to be built to last. Mr. Foster has become an expert on this issue, and it's because he's taken all sides of the issue, so I think he understands both sides. Let me be clear on where I stand on this issue. I oppose the lens, but I'm the first, and was the first candidate to come out, because it's leadership not just to oppose something, but to tell you how you're going to move forward. So I was the first one to say, look, we need to have a new plan in place by a new task force within 3 months. We need to have new design within 9 months, and we'll have this thing built by the end of 2015. That's leadership.
Well, let's do a follow-up. We only get one, unfortunately, because I could ask at least 8 or 9 that I've thought of. If the lens is voted down on August 27th, would you require the next proposal to go to voters in a referendum? And if you don't build the lens, please tell me what you're going to build. Mr. Foster.
I think taking a poll and then deciding what you want to do next is not leadership. But I assembled the 828 Alliance because I think it's time to really carry this momentum while people are passionate about this issue, passionate about their waterfront, talking about waterfront master plans, to make sure that we do this right, engage the public, and come up with a process for the design and selection of the next great landmark for the city of St. Petersburg. That's what the 828 Alliance is going to do, and we're not going to waste any time. We're going to have that process in place for design and selection of the new pier. Referendum, no, unless, of course, the petitioners go out and assemble it according to the charter, then you've earned it.
Go again. Rick? Well, we start with the task force recommendations that we already have, which were made up from 63 public meetings. The public needs to get engaged, and they need to get engaged right from the beginning, because they're getting a second bite at the apple. But we've got to get this thing built. We cannot have a vacant structure on our waterfront, and we can't have an empty waterfront, which is the jewel of our community. So we've got to get it right. I think as long as people weigh in, we give them that chance to weigh in, we get it built, and we get it done right.
Kathleen?
Well, you know, I think part of the problem was in the past, so many people did weigh in, and they were weighing in on the fact, for example, that they wanted to see a restaurant out on the new pier. Well, folks, there is no air-conditioned restaurant at the Lens. Let me just clear that up for you. There's been a lot of questions about that issue. There is no planned air-conditioned restaurant out on the Lens. And I think we need to look further at what we do have. Again, I think the citizens of St. Pete have a valuable waterfront asset and they should be able to vote on it. And you know, I gave Mr. Foster a perfect opportunity when I pointed out that part of the charter that would have allowed him to say to the city council, you know, Mrs. Ford is right, this is permanent disposition of waterfront property, why don't we let the citizens of St. Pete vote on it? But no, he's fighting me still at the appellate court.
All right, just a quick yes or no. Should Pinellas County voters also get a chance to vote on this?